Welcome to another episode of Grand Football. It is yours truly, Mr. Chicks. You are welcome to another episode. And if this is your first time joining us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're here every week looking at the Premier League fixtures. So Premier League started last week with the game week 1 out of the way. How did your team do? Did you get the result you wanted? Or did your team just kind of like work their way to that victory? Or they lost or they drew? Don't worry, there's still 37 games to make up. So quickly, let's look at the results from game week 1 and look at how the teams fared and how our pundits did with our predictions. For game week 1, Liverpool versus Bournemouth. What an interesting game it was. And Liverpool ended up winning that one 4-2. And we did have someone amongst our pundits who had the correct score in Finn. Well done, Finn. He was the only one who got that result right. Every other person got the outcome, but not the result. So well done to everyone. Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Without Isak, how would Newcastle play? And they held their own. But some would argue they should have won the game when Aston Villa went a man down. But you never know. In football, Aston Villa might have just tightened shop proper and didn't give them any space at all. So anyway, that game finished 0-0. And no one actually predicted a 0-0 scoreline apart from a draw by OK and Anu, who predicted that game would finish in a draw. So well done to them. Brighton versus Fulham. Brighton versus Fulham. That game was an interesting one because Brighton were leading for a good chunk of that game before Fulham came in the last minute and got an equalizer in Muniz, who got the equalizer, and that game finished 1-1. And well done to TZ, Temizak, and Kiki, who both predicted that Brighton Fulham would finish 1-1, and that was indeed the final score in that game. So let's look at the next game. Sunderland versus West Ham. Sunderland, the newly promoted team. No one was sure what to expect from the team because they have bought in a lot of players in to try and make sure they stay in the Premier League. And boy, did they have a good start. The Stadium of Light was buzzing because Sunderland won the game 3-0. And no one actually predicted that scoreline because no one thought, well, they're new, so even if they're going to play well, not in the first game, but they did. They gave their fans, the Sunderland fans, something to cheer about, and they finished the game 3-0. Like I said, no one predicted that, but a few people like myself thought Sunderland should win the game, but I didn't get the correct score. Tottenham versus Burnley. Tottenham, after their Super Cup showing where they lost on penalties, no one was sure what to expect from this Tottenham team, and obviously it's a new era, new manager with Thomas Frank, so not a lot of people were sure what to expect from this game, but they gave us a good show. They won the game 3-0, Richarlison scoring 2 goals, and, they had a good game, let's just put it that way. And we had someone predict the correct score in Anu. Anu, well done to you. You got the 3-0 and you got the correct score. Wolverhampton versus Man City. This one I went all out and I said Man City were going to beat them by a high score. And I went for 5-1. That was close because I got the 4-goal difference, but not the actual way it came. Because Man City won the game 4-0. But Wolves were poor on the day, I must say. And, what are your predictions for who's going down? Do you think Wolves should be amongst them? You never know. But yeah, That game finished 4-0 with Haaland getting 2 goals, and Rangers, the player of the game, he had a very good game, an assist, a goal, and a pre-assist as well in the game. So yeah, he's done well for his first game in Premier League. So there's still more to come. There's 37 games to assess if he's been a great buy or not. Yeah. Well, the disappointment of the weekend, Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Chelsea ended up that game 0-0, no one scoring, and Chelsea's firepower up front couldn't deliver, which is a bit of a worry. I mean, it's only the first game, but you would wonder, can they do it going further in the season? Because they would face tougher opposition going into the next games, and they haven't done it in their first game. But having said all that, it is Crystal Palace they played, guys. Crystal Palace are a force to reckon with now, especially winning the FA Cup and winning the Community Shield. So they will have that presence about them in every game, and people might start to fear them a bit, although they're losing some of their players now. So I'm not sure if that fear factor would stick for a long time. Anyway, they drew the game 0-0. Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. This game, Chris Wood was on fire. He got 2 goals, and Brentford looked a bit poor. I know they got to go back to bring it to 3-1, but they went really, for me, one of the teams I'm going to put out there for relegation might be Brentford, because I'm looking at it, they have lost quite a lot of people, and the ones that are there are not even settled. The likes of Wissa is still not settled if he's staying or if he's going, but I think he's going. It's just a case of Brentford agreeing the price for whoever comes for him. So that team would need a lot of, players brought in. So it'll be interesting to see, with a new manager as well in Keith Andrews, who hasn't had much experience in management. So it might be process where they start to rebuild that team. So they might go down and then come back up. But you never know, they might pick up before the end of the season. But for now, they don't look a good side like how they used to under Thomas Frank. Yep. No one predicted someone did actually. Dion predicted the correct score for that game. Well done, Dion. He got the 3-1 prediction for Nottingham Forest Brentford. Yeah, well done. Manchester United versus Arsenal. Arsenal coming away with a win, 1-0 win, with Calafiori scoring the goal. But Man United put up a good fight, but you would expect that. They're at home, they're playing at home. They've got some decent signings now, but it might just be too early because it's the first game of the season for all them players to start playing well as a team. But they gave a good account of themselves, and although they lost the game, no one predicted that correct score of 1-0 to the Arsenal. Yeah. We'll move on to the last game. Leeds versus Everton. Leeds versus Everton. This game finished 1-0 with a controversial, you could say, penalty that Leeds got, and Lucas Mecha, the new player for Leeds, was able to convert the penalty and give Leeds a happy return to the Premier League, a 1-0 win over Everton. This result might be very, very important come the end of the season. Yeah, so no one predicted that scoreline as well. Quite a few of us predicted that Leeds would actually win the game. Myself, Dion, and just myself and Dion, who predicted the correct outcome, not the correct score. So we quickly are going to go into the game week 2. Game week 2. And what are your thoughts for game week 2? I'll tell you my predictions, and you can leave yours in the comment section. So Before we do game week 2 though, let's talk about what's a few things that happened in the week. Yeah. So the PFA Team of the Year was announced in the week. And I'll quickly go through the players that are in that Team of the Year. Well done to each and every one of them. Matt Sells, he had a great season. Remember when we did our Team of the Year, he was in that team, and it reflects here as well. Matt Sells is the goalkeeper of the season. Then we have in defense, Van Dijk, William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes, Milos Kerkez as the defenders. Well, Kerkez is for what he did for Bournemouth, but now he's a Liverpool player. So well done to Van Dijk, Saliba, Gabriel, and Kerkez. Then in midfield we have Declan Rice, McAllister, Ryan Gravenberch as the midfielders. Yeah, well done to them as well. Then up front we have Mohamed Salah, Chris Wood, and Alexander Isak. And for the PFA Player of the Season, it went to Mohamed Salah. So well done to him. He's won it a third time, and I'm sure he'll be happy with that. And come this season, he's already off to a good start. His team winning, him getting a goal on the opening day again. Yep, so he'll be happy with all that. So yeah, guys, now we are going to look at game week 2. Game week 2. There's some interesting games in there, some difficult games to predict, but we have to do it all the same. Yeah, so I am going to start with the game starting today. West Ham versus Chelsea. Both teams poor in their first game, but West Ham, you would say, was worse because they lost to a newly promoted team and they lost woefully away from home. So they're back home now, and I'm thinking, would they just let Chelsea come? Because it's a London derby, don't forget. So this game has something riding on it. So West Ham, they haven't bought that many people in. I can't even remember who they brought. Yeah, they brought Callum Wilson in. Yeah, but apart from that, not a lot to that catches the eye. So probably be difficult compared to Chelsea, who have brought some decent amount of people in Pedro, Delap, Gittins, Esteville. Plenty coming in. So they might have a lot of firepower going forward and trying to secure the win in this game. So because of that, I am going to say Chelsea to win the game 2-1 away from home. 2-1. Another big game, Manchester City versus Tottenham. A big game of the weekend. Tottenham, they normally know how to play against Man City, but this looks like a different Man City, although it looks like a different Spurs as well. Will Spurs, with all the out of the field antiques, affect them? Losing out to Eze, would it affect their game? But I don't think it should. They should be professionals, focusing on what they have to do for the game ahead. So I see this one as a very, very, very tight game, but I'm going to go for Man City to just nick it with a 2-1 win. Yeah. Bournemouth versus Wolves. Bournemouth versus Wolves. Well, both teams lost their first game, but Wolves lost woefully to Man City. Bournemouth, they gave a good account of themselves against Liverpool before losing eventually. So I feel Bournemouth would look at that game and have a lot of confidence going into this game and saying, look, what we did to Liverpool, we can do it here, and then replicate that and do more to get ourselves a win. So I'm going to say Bournemouth, because you have to remember, Bournemouth have lost a lot of players, and they still look very good, especially in that game against Liverpool. You wouldn't even think they had lost that many defenders in their team, and yet they played really well. So I'm going to go for Bournemouth to win 3-1. They're going to beat Wolves 3-1. Brentford versus Aston Villa. Well, Brentford, like I said, might be a team that I'm not too sure this season, but they're at home, their first home game, so I'm thinking they might just step up and try and win the game against Aston Villa. But Villa might be, they might hold their own and try and make sure they don't lose as well. And because of that, I'm sitting on the fence on this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. A 1-1 draw between Brentford and Aston Villa. Burnley versus Sunderland. The newly promoted derby. Yes, so I'm going to say this one as well. It's difficult to call because Burnley, in as much as they didn't play really well against Tottenham, but you can excuse them. That was the first game of the season and they were playing a good side in Tottenham. So this is a main test for them now when they play a team that's come up just like them. And Sunderland is the same. They did well against West Ham, but can they continue in their good run? So I say this game as well. It's a difficult one to call, and I'm going to sit on the fence again. And I'm going to say this one as well will finish in a 1-1 draw. In a 1-1 draw. Arsenal versus Leeds. Another newly promoted team coming to the Emirates. So this game, Arsenal have to play better than they did against Man United. I know they got the win against Man United, but the gameplay, the performance wasn't great. Every Arsenal fan would agree with that. The performance wasn't great. So this game is a game at the Emirates where they are coming to show the fans, look, this is what we are about going into the season. And with the extra boost of getting Eze over the line, now they should come here all, everyone buzzing, trying to make sure they do well. Leeds, on the other hand, it's always a difficult team to play. In the last few games against Leeds, it hasn't been a whitewash, They've held their own. Even if they lost, it was by like a 1-goal margin on that. But this one, I feel it's too early in the season and Arsenal will want to make a statement. I feel. I mean, it might not happen, but this is what I expect to happen. And I'm going to replicate that with my scoreline. I'm going for Arsenal to win 4-0. Arsenal to beat Leeds 4-0. Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest. This is another tricky game now that Crystal Palace are involved in Europe as well. Both teams are involved in Europe, but I think Crystal Palace played yesterday and Nottingham Forest didn't. So they might be fresher. So I'm thinking because of the European games that they've just played, it might have taken a bit out of them. It'll be interesting to see how they play after playing in Europe this season. So this is a game that would be a big test for Crystal Palace. But Forest will be buzzing from their win against Brentford, and I see them beating Crystal Palace. And I'm going for a slim win, a 2-1 win away from home. Nottingham Forest to beat Crystal Palace 2-1. Everton versus Brighton. Everton were a bit poor in that game against a newly promoted side, and Brighton as well. They'll be vexed that Fulham were able to come back in that game. So who knows what kind of team would turn up in this game. But I feel Everton will be more determined to win the game, getting all their new players gelling, like the likes of Grealish, getting him playing really well. And I think he'll be key for this game because I think he probably will start for this one. And I'm going to go for Everton to beat Brighton 2-0. Everton to beat Brighton 2-0. Fulham versus Manchester United. Manchester United, like we said, looked really good in the game against Arsenal, even if they lost. And the main striker, Šeško, who's just come in, will probably start in this game and will probably do well. The likes of Cunha and Mbeumo as well. I feel amongst them three, one of them will probably get a goal, or they'll all get a goal each, based on my prediction, because I'm going for Manchester United to beat Fulham away from home 3-1. I'm going for Manchester United to win 3-1. Newcastle versus Liverpool. Another big game. Someone said it's the Ekitike derby. That's a mouthful. But yeah, Ekitike, who was supposed to go to Newcastle, remember, but ended up at Liverpool. And now Isak, who is a Newcastle player who Liverpool wants. So it's interesting to see if that deal will go through at the end. But as it stands now, he's still a Newcastle player, but we know he's not going to be amongst the starting lineup for this game. So yeah, this game will be very, very interesting. I feel it will be very, very, very physical, this game. Because Newcastle, they probably have a point to prove to Isak that, look, we know you want to go to this team, but let us show you what we can do to this team. Remember, we beat them in the Carabao Cup to lift the Carabao Cup, and we can do it again, even without your help this time. So it will be a very, very tight game, I feel, and I'm going to sit on the fence with this one. And I'm going to go with the game to finish 2-2. The game to finish 2-2. So, what are your thoughts for the game week 2? Let us know in the comment section. And remember, like I said, if it's your first time joining us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All those beautiful things that you do. Don't forget to do them. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We will be back again soon. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Yo, check this.